Welcome to the All49ers show. Grant Cohn, Jose Sanchez. Sorry we were a little late. Had some technical difficulties, but we're here now. Made you wait. Now the show's on. We're going to talk about Deebo today. We're going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to redo the 2021 draft and even talk a little Steph Curry. We're going to start with Deebo, though. It seems like there may – well, first of all, Aaron Wilson, who's very credible and connected, says that the rumblings around the league is that the Niners and Deebo are on the verge of a massive, massive extension. I believe it. Terry McLaurin yesterday got an extension with Washington, 3 years, 70-something million. It's got about, hold on, I can tell you exactly what it is. 3 years, 70 million, 28 million signing bonus, 34.6 million guaranteed at signing, 53.1 million guaranteed overall. And he didn't go to minicamp. Maybe Deebo should have held out as well. Do you think he's going to get something along the lines of this?
Along the lines, yeah. I consider like tier 1, tier 2. You know, it's kind of funny because how it's kind of come full circle for me and you, because one of our first streams together was when Deebo requested that trade, and that was a hell of a day, wasn't it? Yeah. But I see it as like a tier 1, tier 2. You got your Devontae Adams, your Tyreek Hill, your Stephon Diggs. Then you have the tier 2s with AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, and you notice how all their salaries like all are pretty much bunched together in terms of like a $5 to $7 million range, whether it's salary per year or guaranteed. So you have McLaurin's, like you said, was 53. I think AJ Brown's like 56, teetering around there, give or take. I think pretty much, yeah, Deebo's going to be in that tier 2 category, but he's going to probably get a little bit more, probably like we're talking guarantees. I see him getting capped out as maybe even $60 million guarantee, which I would have no qualms with. You know, if you're the 49ers, essentially you got to let your best wide receiver, you know, all pro players, you want to extend them. The point of drafting these players is to keep them. And it's also at the same time investing in Trey Lance. So I think it's pretty much going to be in that range. It might be even a little bit more steep, especially now that Deebo might not be the same type of, you know, wide back role usage, but still it's worth the investment just because you got Lance there and you just got to give him that dollar. So in that sense, it's pretty much a good value, fair deal.
Okay. I got a couple takeaways here. First off, have the Niners really helped themselves by holding a hard line and saying, we wait, we don't do extensions until August? Okay, well, Washington did an extension for Terry McLaurin. Philly did an extension for AJ Brown. It seems by waiting, the price tag keeps going up. I don't understand what they're really waiting for on this one and why it seems like other teams aren't waiting. I think the wide receiver market's kind of moving differently, and the Niners probably should have acted sooner. Other thing I think is interesting about this is it's a 3-year extension, not a 4-year extension. If I were Deebo, I'd be thinking along the same lines. Like, I want to get back in the market sooner rather than later. And in 4 years, Deebo will be like 30. So I think if I were him, I'd rather hit the market when I'm in my 20s. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he looks for something like Terry McLaurin's 3-year, $70 million extension. I would.
Yeah, get a double dip so that way you increase your value, because right now his value is not – if he continues along the path he's going now, whether he's getting handoffs or not, his value is going to be exponentially greater for sure off top, just the way the market dictates. And because by then he'll have more on his resume, right? He'll have more years. I think that's the knock some people I know have against him of why you don't want to give him that Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill money around $70 million guarantees, because look, he hasn't been doing it for a long time. 2020 was a wash. I know he had a promising 2019 year, but it's pretty much was half of that to me. And then last year was the one where he just really exploded. And sure enough, it was a contract year. So pretty much you just want him to have more of that resume. You know, that's the reason why Adams and Hill and all of them are getting that money, is because, hey, these guys have been the top of the best of the best for like 5 to 8 years now. So of course it's kind of no brainer giving them that type of deal. So yeah, if you're Deebo, for sure you want to do that. And even if you're the Niners, you think of that right now, like that sounds pretty good right now, because we don't have to cash him out necessarily. And we get some more years to see if you're worth it, if we want to give you that next contract down the line.
Yeah, last thing, I'm looking at AJ Brown's contract extension and McLaurin's. And what's interesting is AJ Brown got 4 years, McLaurin got 3, but McLaurin actually got a bigger signing bonus, and their guaranteed money is quite similar. Brown got a little bit more. So it seems like if you take a 3-year deal, it's not like you get less money. Yeah. It's just you able to hit the market again. Some players want longevity, but it seems you don't really actually have longevity. You don't have any not longevity, security. You don't actually have security with these contracts unless they're 100% guaranteed. So I would take the shorter one. Anyway, I think we are getting some clarity on what Deebo is going to sign for. And when Aaron Wilson says they're on the verge of something huge, It's like, yeah, obviously. I don't even think they really have to talk about it very much.
It kind of makes it obvious. It's like, yeah, they're on the verge because there's only so many receivers left, and at that point, we're gonna know what this floor and ceiling is concretely. And I think now we kind of already know what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, I really think the Niners should have handled this months ago. I don't see what they gained from waiting, but I guess we'll see when the final numbers come in.
This is the way they do business consistently.
It is. It's the way they do business. They're not flexible, and it's very important to not be flexible. All right. Anyway. Sticking with the wide receivers, do the Niners have the best wide receiver duo in the NFL in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk? And I ask this thinking that Jimmy Garoppolo held them back to an extent. Do you think now that they have Trey Lance that they're going to be revealed as the top duo in the league?
No. No. Jimmy Garoppolo held them back? Yes.
Yes.
So I think they're going to be better.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what that Trey Lance Brandon Ayuk connection will look like. But no, do they not have it? I'll take freaking he's not washed up, but a declining Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson over those two. I mean, even with Kirk Cousins and whoever the hell their offensive coordinators. I like that better, to be honest. That looks better to me. Who else is out there?
I'll take Justin Jefferson is really, really good though. And it's like you could say that Justin Jefferson is better than Deebo, and you could say that Thielen's better than Ayuk. You could, right? Fair enough.
Right.
I think I would take Deebo and Ayuk though, just to be a homer.
Homer. No.
What else? What other ones are in the conversation? Because I was thinking of two other duos that I would.
Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is better. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is better. Come on, dog. What are we doing here?
I'll take the Niners one just because they have Deebo. I really think Deebo was MVP. Here, let me name the two ones that I was putting in the conversation. First of all, Cincinnati. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think that's the best duo in the league. I think Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in the league. Jamar Chase can do probably everything that Deebo can do after the catch, but he's faster. He had 13 touchdown catches last year. Deebo, how many does Deebo have in his career? Like 13. So I'm just saying, I think T. Higgins is better than Brandon Ayuk. I would take the Cincinnati duo, and then another one that's in the conversation is the Philly duo, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. No,
not Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is solid, but I wouldn't crown him yet. AJ Brown, sure.
You don't think he's better than Ayuk? You don't think that Devontae Smith is better than Ayuk?
I feel like they're neck and neck to me.
That's
a
fair.
little more.
That's
a little
fair.
neck and neck to me, and then in terms at that point, okay, what about AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel? Okay,
I think they're kind of neck and neck too. I like AJ
Brown. Take AJ Brown, but here's the thing: I feel like
that's what I'm saying.
To me, my worth. The reason why I feel Deebo is like one of the best offensive weapons is because exactly that he's an offensive weapon. But once you take away or even reduce a significant amount of presuming that's going to be the reduction we're going to see in 2022, then his value and his impact lessens. He'll still be really good. He's going to be freaking sweet. But to me, it's like an exclusive wide receiver. I don't think it's going to be nearly the same.
Here's the stat. Okay, here's the stat. 10 touchdown catches in 3 seasons for Deebo. Chase had 13 as a rookie. So here's the thing with Deebo. And it's like, we've been having this conversation. I feel like I'm just having an epiphany. Yeah, he's a great offensive weapon. But just as a receiver, to your point, he doesn't score enough touchdowns. Once you get in the red zone, he's not really a huge threat as a receiver. As a running back, he's the biggest threat in the league. He's the best red zone running back in the league. But if he can't do that, then, how many screens are you going to throw to him in the red zone, right? He's kind of got small. He doesn't have a big catch radius. He's not a big contested catch guy. And, really, in the red zone, you'd rather throw to Juwan Jennings or George Kittle or Ayuk. Not that he doesn't get – he gets some targets too. I'm just saying it's not – I'd rather throw to freaking Jamar Chase or T. Higgins in the end zone. Then
probably Ayuk, because wasn't it against the Bengals that he ran that nasty ass route where he just completely shimmied on someone, just oh my god? Or was that the Vikings
for the win? For the win in overtime?
That one too. But there was another one. There was another one where it was 5 yards away. He did a sweet I think he was lined up in the slot. He did a nice sweet feint to the outside. He came back in. I think that might have been the Vikings, but either way, he completely demolished his defender. So to me, I think he just looks better. He's just better a better route runner when it comes to short space in terms of versus Deebo is if you give him a little longer, a longer real estate to work with, you're pretty much cooked. But to me, they don't have a top. The best wide receiver duo, no. And I think there's going to be probably like 3 to 5.
I think they're top 5.
Top 5. Okay, I'll give you that top 5. But I still think I can probably feel I can grasp.
Seattle has a good one too.
See, I was going to say that's another one I was thinking. Seattle, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf.
I mean, the Rams have a good one too with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson.
Yep. Oh, okay, Allen Robinson. Okay, stop.
Yeah, I'm not a big Allen Robinson guy either. The Raiders have a good one in Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow.
That's a sweet one.
That's a good one.
I
mean, the Dolphins have a good one in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle was sweet last year, but they have pretty much Jimmy G over there too. So
a lot of good duos in the league. That's true. They do.
How's that gonna work?
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's on Ayuk to take the next step. Deebo is an all-pro wide receiver. Ayuk, there's a lot of excuses for the fact that he hasn't got to 1,000 yards yet. I think a lot of people expect him to have 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 yards this year, including me. So it's on him to do it. He probably will.
Plus all that hype he has in the offseason, they're kind of giving him. So it's like right now everything's surging for him.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's keep going. Matt Mayoko was on the radio yesterday, and he was asked, like, what's going to go on with Jimmy Garoppolo? And he's such a plain-spoken, honest dude. And he was like, man, I can't really see him starting anywhere this season, which I've felt for a while. I mean, which team seems super motivated to get Jimmy Garoppolo coming off surgery, and he hasn't been on your team in OTAs and minicamp? Like, you're just going to throw the playbook at him in August, coming off a surgery to his throwing shoulder, and be like, hey, cram that into your brain and be our starter, and and we're going to win the Super Bowl. What is the point? Shouldn't you just go with your whatever young guy you have? I mean, it seems like that's the way this is going. What do you think?
Yeah, he ain't being a starter this year. That's why I keep thinking every time Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, whoever the hell goes up there and says, like, yeah, unless he's traded, like, what kind of delusion do you have? Let's just say this. If the 49ers are able to trade Garoppolo for anything, a ham sandwich, they should be crowned offseason champions, because, my God, nobody on their God's green earth should trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. You're going to take on that contract and give up anything? Like, that alone would be malpractice if you're a team like trading for Garoppolo. If you're the Niners, my God, you guys are crescent for the best offseason I've ever seen. But that's just freaking ridiculous with what he's gonna do at anything this season. I see him. He's going to be like a picked up emergency backup for some team who loses it, whether it's through gameplay or injury. But no, he's not going to be a star anymore. It's done. I mean, I think we all could have pretty much surmised that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. He was trying to be really fair. I think he was. He's like, he's definitely a top 25 quarterback in the NFL. I thought that was a very diplomatic way. You could say that, right? He's a top 25 quarterback in the NFL. But what team is going to say, let's trade for that number 25 ranked quarterback and his contract for 1 year so we can win a Super Bowl? Like, that's not going to happen. No one thinks they're one Jimmy Garoppolo away from winning a Super Bowl. So what's the point? What are you really doing? It seems like a waste. It's a waste of reps that could go to a quarterback with a future. And I think that's how I felt last year. The whole time last year, like, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not going to happen. And we saw it didn't happen. I mean, he's probably not going to be healthy at the end of the year. He's just not good enough. So what's the point of having the 25th best quarterback who's 30 and won't be on your team next year when you could just start freaking Drew Lock or Jacoby Brissett? Like, what's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's always that salary too, right? That everyone keeps getting bugged about. Like, why are you going to take that on and give up asset? But
and not win a Super Bowl.
Especially with Baker Mayfield out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Baker Mayfield's kind of being painted as a toxic character, which he probably is. But he's cheaper and has a little more promise. At least he can actually air it out. I mean, he might not be the most accurate, especially medium short range or whatever. But at least he has like something you can build upon. I mean, Jimmy doesn't really. You kind of know what he has. I mean, if he's struggling and just can barely get past in a passing offense with the 49ers with Kyle Shanahan of all coaches, what are lesser coaches, which is most of them, going to be able to do with him? Especially when it's going to expedite his learning in the process, trying to build that synchronization with the skill weapons. He's just an emergency quarterback. I mean, once all those teams pretty much filled up all their holes at quarterback back in March, it was pretty much over for him, his future. He was not being a starter anymore.
Nope. And it's like, Coming off the surgery, he's going to have to be a backup for a while. And again, to me, this is going to be very interesting to me. I want to see if he can do it. He was a backup for a long time, but back then he didn't have $100 million. He's at the stage of his career. I mean, I feel like Ryan Tannehill did this. Ryan Tannehill made a lot of money with Miami, and he was written off, and he had to go be Marcus Mariota's backup, and he did it. And Mariota went down. Tannehill played, was clearly better, got another $100 million contract. Maybe Jimmy could do that, but it would require him like sort of swallowing his pride and going somewhere and being someone's backup and just holding a clipboard and, doing football for the love of the game. Does he still have that? I wonder. I don't know. I'd love to see him do it. I'm skeptical that he will.
Probably take the Mitchell Trubisky route, kind of what he did.
Yeah.
Like even who else did that? Marcus Mariota route, I guess.
Very, very rich Mitchell Trubisky, who's had injury issues. Like, how many more injuries will he put up with? How many more backup roles will he take? I don't know. Maybe he'll be Mac Jones backup in New England.
It's definitely going to be a reclamation project for himself, in a sense.
I think it'll be good for him. I think he's mentally broken. Like, the whole downfield throwing thing has gotten worse since the Emmanuel Sanders missing the Super Bowl. Like, I think he's got mental PTSD from that. And it would probably behoove him to just sit on the bench for a while and watch someone else play.
He doesn't have any other choice either. He doesn't have any other choice. Hey, man, here's your option. Be stubborn with what you want to get
and retire. Retire at 30, like, Jake Locker and Andrew Luck, or go work your way up from the bottom again. Go be a backup again. Hey, you go to Tampa.
Oh, God.
Hey, real quick side note, do you think it's a coincidence that Julian Edelman and Brandon Marshall came out with this thing right before Jimmy Garoppolo is supposed to start throwing and like be on the market?
It can't be a coincidence, right? It can't be. It kind of seems like everything was pretty much like within a day of each other and within a day of each other. I remember hearing when Martellus Bennett first said that, I was like, God damn, he's like, you have all these 49er players who just always continue, even now, great guy, whatever, this and that, dude's so humble, dude's so wholesome, whatever, this and that. And then you just have old Patriots player just completely just
ruining him,
sledgehammer to his name.
And it's like 5 years later, right? They're mad about something that happened early 2016. Bennett said it last year, 2021. And now in 2022, Julian Edelman comes out and said, like, right before Jimmy's going to hit the market, says the same thing. And it's like, they are really holding a grudge. To me, what's crazy about it is not only were they angry about it, but they're not going to let it go. And in their opinion is like, I don't care that Jimmy Garoppolo played through a thumb injury for the Niners this year. Look, what he did to us in 2016, we will never let go, never let people forget about it. And we actually want to harm his career. That's what it seemed like. We want people to remember that he's soft and he quit on us and he will quit on you and he will shut himself. I was like, whoa, you talk about me costing players money. Like, Julian Edelman and Martellus Bennett are trying to cost Jimmy Garoppolo money. Like, that is deep.
That's worse.
Whoa.
I actually played with him. They know him.
My goodness. I was surprised.
I wonder if that's not why Jimmy forced his injuries through the hand, shoulder, and whatever else he had at that time, when he's like,
Bennett said that before.
Let me just push through it.
Of course, because he didn't. And you wonder, like, did he shut himself? Remember, first of all, there was 2020. He had the high ankle sprain, never came back. Lynch said he was practicing and looking great. Did he shut himself down? Then there was 2021. He got hurt against Seattle. Halftime, Kyle Shanahan said, well, I didn't have the best game plan for Trey because Jimmy didn't tell me he wasn't going to play until we were walking out for the second half. He said that on the record. Did he shut himself down in that game? Then there was, what? Those would be a few. Mm-hmm. Those would be a few. Did he shut himself down in those cases? I don't know. Maybe not. But he played through it this year, and they questioned him in New England. Anyway.
And that's probably also something they said to him. It's like, look, Jimmy, man, we need you to push through this injury stuff because this is already stacked against you. And if you want to go next season into having some semblance of a starting role, you need to actually show that you're tough.
And it backfired.
Yeah, it did.
Murphy says, if Jimmy leads the Browns to the playoffs and Trey doesn't, would you walk any of your comments about Jimmy or the bust or the just blame the O-line coaching, etc.? Well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see if it unfolds that way. How about that? We'll have to see what happens. People trying to get me to commit to something and a bunch of hypotheticals. That's a hypothetical. Let's see Jimmy Garoppolo start for a team before we talk about walking things back. How about that, Murphy?
See him actually get signed to a team.
Let's see him actually be a starter or be in the league first. Talking about leading the team. Let's see him be healthy for 5 games in a row this year. All right, moving on. Some people think the Niners can be elite this year. I think they can, but I feel like 4 or 5 things would have to happen. What are those things? Maybe it's just one in your opinion.
No, it's got to be multiple things. Look, they're a good team, solid team now, but here's some other players. Like I feel like they have some loose ends. You know, it's kind of like they have the shoes on, but they need to get them laces tied up so they can really run. You know, before they actually gain some traction. I think one of those players is going to be the center, Jake Brendel. I mean, we've seen in the past how many times the center position has been so crucial to that team, especially more than any other team. I mean, everyone knows, you know, at this point, if you're a casual football fan, center is pretty much like almost the brains of the offensive line. Yeah. They pretty much kind of like get everyone set, you know, the middle, like the linebacker offensive line. And every time they didn't have someone who was just decent or adequate enough, everything just tumbled. I mean, I know they had the best case scenario where someone actually stepped in and just did decent was who was his name? Who took
Ben
over? Ben Garland, excuse me.
Ben Garland. He was good. Kilgore was good. Richburg was good. Hronis Grasu was not.
No. Brunskill was not.
And it was crazy real quick. Like in 2020, Garland got hurt, and the Niners were really trying to sell everyone on Grasu. Like, you know, we really like him, even though he's a practice squad guy. He was drafted. He was horrendous, and they had to end up getting him out of there and put Brunskill in there eventually. And I feel like I'm not saying Brendel's going to be the same, but it's the same situation where practice squad guy, anyone could have had this guy. I mean, he wasn't practice squad last year, but he was a couple of years ago. Anyone could have had him. The Niners are the ones being like, we have a diamond in the rough. Forget what everyone else says. He's good. Like, all right, last time I heard this about a no-name center, you were wrong. So hopefully you're right. Brendel's got a lot of pressure on him, but that's one. I think Aaron Banks is two. I mean, at least they say they like Brendel. Like, they didn't say anything like that with Aaron Banks.
They drafted him second round. I guess that means they like him.
Brendel was active last year. Banks was not.
He was injured.
Yeah, it's true. So, yeah, I mean, he needs to be healthy. If he's healthy and good.
You like him when you draft him second round, kind of? I mean, this guy versus one guy got drafted like a very high draft. I mean, second round pick is a pretty big deal versus a guy who pretty much like you said, anyone could have had him. So he probably thinks like, oh, it was kind of like a last minute cheap signing, whatever. And the only reason why he got signed there is because of Chris Forster. That's what they said.
Right.
So, I mean, you got one player who really needs to get propped up, and especially because it is center for that offense. That's critical. You really need that one to be the most tight grip, the most sure-handed. But yeah, I think those are definitely like 1A, 1B, or even 1 and 2, whatever you want to be it. But Brendel top number 2. I'd say the other player, if we're going to look at it, is your boy Talanoa Hufanga. Just because in case he gets picked on or in any sort of capacity, gets beat deep. If he's like short-handed, just short enough coverage. He doesn't have to be anywhere elite, just decent, which I think he's very well capable of being. They're going to have themselves a hell of a defense. They're going to have themselves a hell of a defense already, even with him being, if he is a liability. But I think he just gets to a decent standing, decent footing, and somehow catapult himself to that momentum. My God, that 49ers defense is going to be so disgusting. It's going to be so filthy.
Yeah, I mean, you could always point to Kinlaw, whoever the nickel is, Talanoa. But the defense is always top 5. You know, it could be better, but it's always top 5. It's always the best part of the team. It's always what keeps them in games. For whatever reason, their offense hasn't figured it out in 5 years. I mean, maybe it's the quarterback spot, whatever. But to me, like, the questions are always the offense, the quarterback position. I mean, honestly, if Trey Lance can protect himself, he's got a hell of a trio of receivers. He's got a hell of a running game, a hell of a defense. He could take this team to a whole different level. He could win 12, 13 games as a rookie. Yep. He could be that really successful young quarterback like Roethlisberger was. I mean, he could. Or he could be a total freaking mirage. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people – Emmanuel Ogbah doesn't think he's going to be good. What do you call him? One-play Trey? Okay, Emmanuel. We didn't forget Emmanuel.
Probably watch like just a highlight reel or something like that. I'm just like, that's all he's got.
Yeah. We got a question from OK319 says, I enjoyed the show, Grant. Thank you. Don't you think this is most likely scenario Watson gets told 1 year Browns want JG contract and Niners get something decent, like 6th round? Way more than a ham sandwich. Maybe. Possibly.
They can't fit his contract on there because they're going to have to cut Baker Mayfield and they're going to eat that $18 million. They're going to eat it. Oof. So the only way you get a Baker Mayfield, the only way you get Jimmy Garoppolo on your books is if you send Baker Mayfield, but no one wants Baker Mayfield because everyone knows he's going to get cut. He's going to get cut.
I just want to see Jimmy Garoppolo and Amari Cooper on the same team for a full season.
Oh,
I
God.
really want to see.
Hey, that would work. Amari Cooper's a little bit of a slant god. He works out that way. He's soft going across the middle. He gets drilled pretty bad.
Exactly. I saw John Gruden try to use him that way.
Him on this fool get like knocked out. It was crazy.
Remember in Seattle, John Gruden had him running across the middle, got crunched, and they traded him the next week. It's like, what are you doing?
He does it, but he doesn't brace for it. He just like stands there like a tackling dummy.
He's a finesse receiver. Good one. He runs outside the numbers and down the field. You need a guy with an arm like Deshaun Watson. Great fit with Deshaun Watson. Terrible fit with Jimmy Garoppolo. I really hope Jimmy goes to Cleveland from the bottom of my heart. All right, moving on. This is kind of I was just thinking. If they were to redraft last year's draft, 2021, Niners still had pick 3. Do you think Trey Lance would be available? And do you think they would take him again? How do you think those first 3 picks would go if you did them all over 1 year later?
I think at that point, who would be a higher one? Davis Mills, right? Davis Mills probably maybe higher. I don't know about top 3 higher. That's a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, he did look the most promising of all the quarterbacks.
Also, there was Jamar Chase. I mean, would he go ahead of any of these quarterbacks because he's phenomenal? He go ahead of Kyle Pitts.
I still think the Niners are taking Lance. I know you think you got all those.
There's also Mac Jones who went to the playoffs. I saw someone do a redraft that had Mac Jones going number 3 to the Niners, and I was like,
no.
Would the Jets take Mac Jones? I wonder how the Jets really feel about Zach Wilson. I think they don't know how to feel. I think the Jets are probably as nervous about Zach as the Niners are about Trey. Like, we're all in. We hope. I don't know.
It's probably worse because since the Jets staff is new, they don't really have the full hands-on experience of being in that specific role. I mean, maybe from prior experiences, but being in like assistant roles, whatever, whatnot. But that's
probably they feel like they're on the hot seat too, and the Niners aren't. Yeah.
Look, I still think it's Trey. I know you got some more other great, typically close Pro Bowl, All Pro talents there, but to me, it's like, all right, 49ers are going to draft Chase. Who the hell's still throwing him the ball? I mean, they had to reinvent Deebo Samuel and all these players just to get these guys to be significantly impactful. They were going quarterback no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo would limit Chase the way he limited Deebo. No, you're right. You can't take Chase. They would take – you wouldn't take Mac Jones. I think it's interesting. I still think the Niners did the right thing. Yes. I'm not sure that trading up to number 3 was the right thing, but I'm not sure it wasn't. I mean, if Trey Lance ends up being a superstar, it was worth it. So I think the picks would go the same way. The only difference would be Chase would go 4 instead of 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you think maybe the Falcons would have probably had a better year. Matt Ryan probably stays on. That would have domino affected the whole league.
I just wonder. I mean, the Jets. There's so much pressure on Saleh. I feel like every team you get 3 years as a coach to prove yourself, unless you're awful. New York, you get 2, and I think they're a little like Zach Wilson. It's all going to come down to him. The team is pretty good, but if they had Mac Jones, maybe they just have a little bit more time to put things together because he's solid. I don't know. I actually think Zach Wilson's pretty good. We'll see.
Yeah, he's just solid. No, but look, you mentioned about their you thought it might have been a little too much, or maybe who knows about trading up all the way to 3. Look, I have no problem with them trading up all those picks if you're going for a quarterback. That's a game-changing position. And as we saw right now, all they need is just a little bit more oomph. And if they can get even just more oomph and then beyond, which they hope Trey Lance will be that elite status with those physical traits he gets to, then my God, the Niners are going to be good for a long time. And you got offensive-minded coach. It's going to be to me, it's worth the swing. I appreciate the swing. I respect the hell out of it. I like it better than them just standing pat too many times that we've seen. At least it did something.
I like doing the redraft exercise because usually pretty quickly you realize that the team should have taken someone else in hindsight. Not in this case. Not yet, at least. 2020, I mean, Kinlaw, like Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro offensive tackle. Like, that's an easy one. What about Ayuk? Ayuk is good, but like, is he better than T. Higgins, who went after him? I don't know. Is he better than Trevon Diggs, who had 11 picks last year? Maybe, maybe not. That's an interesting one too. I think we'll probably have a better read on that at the end of the season.
Antoine Winfield still available, I think.
There's a lot of good players who are available right there, probably offensive linemen as well. And the Niners got a number 2 wide receiver that they may not keep long term. We'll see. Something to look at. Next thing, Pro Football Focus says that the Niners have the best off-ball linebackers in the NFL, meaning like the not 3-4 pass rushers. I mean, I don't know the rest of the team's trios, but seems fair. I believe him. It seems like if Dre Greenlaw is your third best linebacker, it's a good trio. And at times I felt like Azeez was better than Fred Warner last year.
Yes.
So to me, what makes this trio so unique and good is that they're all sort of like specialize in moving laterally, not moving downhill. You know what I mean? They're all about going sideways, side to side, not getting any. It didn't used to be that way 15 years ago. It was all about getting in the backfield. Now it's different.
Patrick Willis and LeVar Bowman were pretty damn good at that too. They were good. That's why once Bowman got that injury, it was like, no, he's done. Once he lost that lateral quickness, you really saw how done he was, which is
true.
Sucked to see, but that's the way it goes. You lose just that one aspect as a linebacker, because that's why they have them do those shuffle drills, because you have to be like, you have to be quick on your feet, like almost like a grasshopper, just moving side to side and stuff like that. I think I would tend to agree with that. Just like already thinking about like 10 to 15 teams off the top of my head who I can actually recollect who their linebacker core is, because how many teams are actually even deep like that at linebacker? Usually it's just like 1-2 tops, but you got 3.
Yeah,
you got 3. You got an all-pro caliber and Fred Warner. You got pretty much almost an all-pro caliber and Azeez Al-Shaair if he can do it again. And then Dre Greenlaw is solid, even though he kind of seems like topped out, but still he's been a consistent, just like in the solid state. That's a pretty good ass core right there, because now you don't have to be so one-minded in terms of, oh, we gotta get our nickel out there. But because now you can rock with that base because you have so much of that lateral quickness and you have someone who can get to that sideline quickly if they throw it short to the flat, throw it in the out route. It's a lot of flexibility. And some of these guys have demonstrated to be efficient blitzers. Maybe not Dre Greenlaw, but I've seen Azeez and Fred Warner do some pretty good. I know Fred does it really well on the delay blitz. I think because when they lost K'Waun Williams last year for a good portion, that they made Fred more of that blitzer that K'Waun used to be. So I'm wondering if they still do that, try to switch it around, try to make the other teams guessing. But that's a key one right there.
Well, if you think about it, like, I think it's a key. This is Robert Saleh's legacy on the team. He did this in Jacksonville. But his thought process is, first of all, pass coverage is more important than run defense. So let's think of these guys in terms of pass coverage guys. And he called a lot of zone. So in the 90s, it was a lot of Tampa 2, which is 2 deep, 5 underneath. Like, there's not a lot of space for these linebackers to cover. They don't have to be super fast because the corners are in the flat too. But now it's like cover 3 and cover 4, which means 3 deep, 4 underneath, or 4 deep, 3 underneath. That's a ton of space in coverage for the linebackers to have to be responsible for. And we saw when Saleh first got here and he was calling those coverages with old Navarro Bowman on the field, like, just checkdowns to running backs would be 13-yard gains. The whole defense broke. So you really need super fast linebackers and coverage. And I think just his idea of, you got to think of these guys in terms of coverage players, not just run defenders. Coverage players first. Mm-hmm. That's the whole change in the league. And that's why now you see guys who were like DBs in college now playing linebacker in the NFL. It seems counterintuitive.
And had the Niners always ran that wide 9 front before 2019, or was that like their first year?
That was new, 2019. They brought that in.
Okay, yeah. So you see how they pretty much admitted, look, we're going to address pass first. And if you want to, and I think they gave up damn near almost 5 yards or a carry.
They did.
That didn't matter.
Yeah, didn't matter.
That didn't matter. I mean, sure, if the offense, if the 49ers offense was failing to score like more than like 14, 18 points, then it became an issue, because then teams were just like, all right, we're just going to keep milking the clock. We're going to make this the long game. So we limit the other teams, the 49ers offense possessions, because Jimmy can't throw it or the running game's not working. So yeah, that was already a great commitment right there. So you talk about a legacy that Robert Saleh started. That's another one right there.
Yeah. Remember when he was in Jacksonville, they had Miles Jack, Telvin Smith. I mean, they had really good trio of linebackers. And then he came here. He tried to create the same thing right away. Drafted Reuben Foster, signed Malcolm Smith. Didn't exactly work out, but they got there. And, I'm sure D'Amico Ryans is partially responsible too, because he's been here as well. Real quick before we move on, I asked D'Amico Ryans last time he had a press conference, like, did you talk to Robert Saleh over the offseason just about scheme and stuff? And is that kind of part of do you watch his defense? Is that part of your homework? And he looked at me with this blank expression. He was like, no, I looked at my defense. And I thought that's so interesting. I guess I always assumed like that would have been his best friend or his mentor, but sometimes maybe you feel like you're too closely related to someone you worked with and you're like actually trying to be, hey, I'm my own guy. You know, I do things differently. Just because we work together doesn't mean I'm like calling Robert Saleh, like, hey, what do I do? He was like, nah, man, I didn't do that at all. I was like, wow, I probably talked to Saleh more this offseason than you. That's very interesting. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. DeMeco's like, nope. Okay. Well, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't need Saleh's help.
Especially now he's not working under him like before either. So now it's like, I'm my own guy. I can't be like being the understudy anymore. Now it's, especially since he was just having head coach interviews this offseason.
That's true.
So, I mean,
and maybe he did call Saleh, because why would you not call people and just talk? But maybe he just didn't want the person. Like, maybe he's thinking, well, if I say I talked to Saleh, people will perceive it as he's smarter than me. I need his help. I can't stand it on my own 2 feet. Fair enough, because I'm not trying to create that. DeMeco definitely is good on his own, doesn't need Saleh, and should be a head coach right now. And I respect that he's holding out for the job he wants.
maybe he just didn't even think of it. I mean, he did just come off that brutal loss, and you just, you take some time away from it, and then you start thinking, all right, let's review it. What do we got to do here? Circle this, circle that. Here's what we're gonna do. Like, I would put it past him, just be like, oh, Robert Saleh, when he's got other things on his mind.
I always just assume that coaches have a network of coaches that they talk to and trust just to talk ball, especially in the offseason, like the evolution of scheme. Like, hey, where's offense going? Where should defense go? I mean, those are conversations I think Kyle has with his dad. He probably has with Chris. I'm sure there's 4 or 5 people that Kyle talks to in that way. And it's probably not all of them are in the organization. Some of them might be retired. And I was just wondering, like, what do they say? Who's in your Rolodex? How do you say it? You would think Saleh would be in there, but none of my business. I think basically his answer was none of your fucking business. Fair enough.
It could have been. Maybe he's lying about it. Who knows? But I think also last year when they had the Flying Coach podcast with McVay and Schrager, Shanahan hopped on there. They asked him, one of the questions was they asked them about like, hey, would you guys talk to each other, look at other stuff? Do you ever share plays or whatever? Another semblance is like, not really. We don't really talk to each other like that. If we just see like, oh, it's just it could have been lying, but I got the sense like they weren't, BSing. It was just like, no, dude, I'm not gonna like.
Maybe you can't exactly talk shop with a coach on another team. Maybe it's got to be your dad.
It's almost like taboo. Not when you're going against each other. Maybe when you're done, like done working.
Yeah, maybe the people you talk to have to be retired.
Yes.
Yeah. Or on your team.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, who are your team? Yeah.
Yeah. Last topic of the day. It's the obligatory non-football topic. I want to give Gunnar, I'm gonna get back to you in a second. I want to give Emmanuel Ogbah credit because last month he said that people called Trey Lance one play Trey. I never heard that, and I made a video just sort of cursing a lot. It was okay. I was upset. I don't know why I was upset. It just seemed like a lazy analysis, and I felt like I had enough. But then he came out recently and had this beautiful analysis of Steph and Curry, and I think articulated what a lot of people felt but hadn't said, and he did it in like 90 seconds. So I wanted to give him credit. It was like, as a lot of other people have put it, it was one of the better comments in sports analysis that I've heard this year. And he basically said, like, this is why Steph Curry is better than Kevin Durant. Forget individually what they've accomplished. Look at what Steph has done for people around him. Look at how Steph has made so many people. But I'm not going to redo the whole rant because he did it better. But if you want to check it out, it's all over Twitter and YouTube. Basically just pointed out, all the people that Steph has made into made men. Clay, Draymond, Steve Kerr, Andrew Wiggins. And with Durant, I mean, like, all the people he's worked with really had their biggest accomplishments away from him. And it's like, yeah, it's a damn good point, Emmanuel. And I think it shows why Steph Curry belongs in such lofty conversations, one of the greatest athletes of all time. Like, it's a team sport. Look what he does to his team.
That just deserve applause for Macho. I was like, you know what? You might have been talking so fast with some of these people, if they haven't watched it, this guy felt like he was.
That's why they had to have subtitles.
They felt like he was on fast forward 2.5 times. That's how fast he was.
Wow.
But hearing him just reminds me, one of my cousins has like one of the greatest sports take he's ever had. And one of the ones I've ever heard is, he said years ago, Steph Curry might be the most disrespected professional athlete in the history, maybe not in history, but like in recent memory, like especially even now, like the guy just gets like no credit. So the fact that it took just 4 rings for people to finally start propping him up just more, it felt like it was just a little. Now that he's got this 4th, it took a huge jump to finally like reach that level he has at now, which is why I think I felt adamant about last week when we talked about, I think Curry is number 1 for me in Bay Area athletes, just because of like, the way he ascended, the way he keeps going, the way he's still just, just with the same team, the way he's changed the game, and these points that Acho just pointed out. Who has he made better? Who does he keep? Like, the guy is not me first, the guy is team first, and it's like, which he should probably be me first in some games, because the guy can just take over like he did in that game 4. Like, just what he's done for the impact of the game, ultimately to his teammates, and especially comparing to Kevin Durant. Perfect, because Grant, his ultimate skill is just ISO, because he's the guy's just a freak of nature. Right. So why does he need to raise other people's games? I mean, you could see the way he did it with OKC. I mean, he let Russell Westbrook take over. That was probably his greatest thing. It's like, oh, I let Westbrook take over. And how did that work out for them? Nothing.
Right. But the point is, like, with that style, his, great one-on, is probably the best one-on-one player in the NBA. He's never won a championship that way. Mm-hmm. And you know what? He never will. Because it's a team game. And he in the playoffs, he's always going to come up against someone eventually who can make him work, like Kawhi or Giannis, who are just better players than him. And with Steph, you can double him, you can blitz him, you can take the ball out of his hands, but he won't force it. He'll make the right pass. Now that the Warriors are playing 4-on-3, he's great off the ball, on the ball. He's to me, he has a bigger impact on his team than Kevin Durant does. And they're both all-time greats. But that's pretty much, I mean, even LeBron, like, just thinking about, Draymond would never have been an all-star without Steph. And I don't know if Clay would either. And now they're going to be Hall of Famers. What players can you say that about with LeBron James? Guys that he made Hall of Famers. Like, he made Tristan Thompson a good player for a minute, but, like, it's not the same, Maybe he just wasn't in that position.
So we speaking about impact on the game, what Acho just said, like, impact on your teammates and everything. Like, it's funny with KD and LeBron, especially LeBron. It's like, what has he done better to his teammates? Well, can you say he's always switching teams and his teammates? Right. He's just throwing them out like a piece of used up gum. It's like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
It's this mercenary style of basketball. Who said that? I forgot. I heard someone say that, and I was like, bravo. That's the best adjective to use for the NBA. It's pretty much majority of the league is mercenary basketball. It's like, hey, I'll hire you to do this. We'll run a year or two. I mean, shoot, the Nets until yesterday, 2 days ago, were about to disband already KD and Kyrie after just 1 year barely being together.
Yep.
So to me, I think that's where it's like, it's you have these players who have their skills and just think like so highly of themselves and they're dominant, and they are dominant, but you realize you got to make other people better. It can't just be all about you, especially when it's like a 7-game series. That's tough to sustain. And those moments is going to demand from you, but you need other players to actually uplift them. It's like the same thing with the quarterbacks in the NFL. We pay you this money, Aaron Rodgers, to uplift these other receivers because you're so damn good. Are you that good to uplift other people, or are you just like, no? Right. You kind of see it with the way with like LeBron and KD, which is why they're always like looking at other places. They're looking where the grass is greener all the time, rather than just looking at what's in their own yard.
And to me, that let's talk about LeBron. Like, he's part of the problem with the teams that he leaves. First, Cleveland at first, that team sucked. Wasn't his fault. He left fine. He went to the Miami. He has a great organization run by Pat Riley. He won 2 titles and left. Why? And they had like a 50-win season like 2 years later. Just left Miami to go back to Cleveland. Fine. He wanted to be the good guy again. When he got back to Cleveland, he essentially was the general manager of that team. I mean, anything he wanted, they would do. So you can't really talk about him not having the supporting cast. Like, he got there and was like, Wiggins, I don't like him. Let's trade him for Kevin Love, who plays no defense. Defense is kind of important in the playoffs. Curry gets Wiggins 7 years later and turns him into a quality, not just a quality role player, an essential role player on a championship team. I mean, I just feel like these superstars are so powerful in the NBA now. They actually are partially responsible for the teams they put together, or that they blow up. And Curry never blew up the team. He never left. LeBron, he went to Cleveland, put together a team that fell apart and was like, I'm out. Oh, whatever, your problem now. And I'll just go to LA and put together a team there. And now he's got a ridiculous team with freaking Russell Westbrook. Like, how did he get here? Did you sign off on that? Did you want that? Like, I don't know. Steph doesn't put together a ridiculous team. He doesn't let this stuff happen to his team. They both have ultimate power over their organization. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he did. I used to always call LeBron James with his general, it's just irrational with the way he moves people. Since obviously he's the GM, I used to call him the John Gruden of players for the NBA because he lacks the vision to project. It's just, what can you do for me in this moment right now? Which not even a Gruden thing. It's a head coach thing. I mean, Shanahan does that. He's very short-tempered, short patience. with his own young players rather than just let them work through it. It's almost like, nah, I've seen enough after just your 2 reps. Let me get them out of here. Like, I remember the Lakers with that young crew with Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and like a couple other players. They were doing fine. I remember for that first half of the season, and LeBron got injured, and it's almost like he sat back to be injured on purpose, or he chilled on his rehab so he could see where his young people are going and see how they handle it without him. And once they went on a losing streak, he said, "We're done. Chalk the season. I'm done with them. We're gonna get AD."
Now AD is like pretty much never going to play. And Russell Westbrook. Oh, man. LeBron, I don't know. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He's got the longevity. He was great, young, old. But I don't know, man. I mean, he put together some bad teams. He's got to be responsible for some of this weak supporting cast that he's had. Sorry. I mean,
it's always funny when he tries to backlash, like, oh, you look at other teams, how they do. LeBron, shut up. You built your own team, bro. Like, maybe you just let the other people who actually get paid to build the team do their job. You would actually be in a better position than you are now.
Here's his ultimate legacy. Only dude ever who could win a ring with Kyrie.
Yeah.
He gets credit for that.
Because Kyrie is Curry to be injured, Draymond suspended, and something else happened.
That's true. That is true. But I mean, he actually kept Kyrie's like head in the game. No one else has been able to do that, especially Kevin Durant. Gunnar says, do you think Kyle opened up the playbook this year finally? Never had a consistently good offense, and yet he's an offensive coach. Not right away. I wouldn't expect it. I think it's going to be training wheels early on with Trey Lance until he – like, go back and look how Seattle used Russell Wilson in the first half of his rookie year. It was a lot of running the ball. A lot of running. I think it's going to be like that.
Plus, I just think Kyle's he's just going to be a run-first coach. He's an old-school mentality coach to a degree. And plus, yeah, I think it's going to be something he needs to build trust and comfortability first with Trey. Like I said, I think it's going to be early game. Like, let's just see a few passes, see if he completes it. And then if I trust him, all right, now let's just start launching it and see what we can do with him because I think he's feeling it today.
Tapia says Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Why?
I gotta pick Ronaldo because Ronaldo shows up more on the lately now Messi's been showing up. Messi's been showing up on the international stage the last 2 years, so he's gonna start building the case. But to me, I've always given the nod to Ronaldo. Still a slight nod. The way he's just showing up more in World Cup. Even when Argentina made that World Cup run in 2014, he kind of disappeared once they got into the actual playoff tournament.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
No, you weren't. You don't even know who Messi is.
Of course I do. Messi, he plays soccer. All right, that's the show for today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tonight with Jesse Naylor. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Eric Crocker, and then we'll figure it out from there. Jose, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Peace.